Hey guys, it's Jaden. I wanted to give you a really important lesson for every single individual who's wanting to not only succeed in their business, but this also applies to a lot of different realms, and that's sales. So today's video lesson is Sales 101, objectives, objections versus complaints, how to get over that fear of pitching owners. So the first thing that I want to talk about is complaints. There are oftentimes too many people who spend way too much time addressing and trying to overcome complaints versus real objections. What I mean by this, and some of you may be familiar with this if you studied Grant Cardone's sales material. If you don't, I highly recommend you check him out. Great guy, great stuff. Part of the process of sales is learning to identify what a complaint is. So for example, you're talking with a business owner and you're explaining to them that you want to do social media branding for them, and they say, well, I don't really need that right now. Most people would consider that an objection, but actually that's just a complaint. You don't have to address that because it's just an opinion. Now, if the business owner was going to say, how is social media going to affect my business? That is a real objection. They are trying to gather more insight on why they should take you seriously. So big difference there, right? I don't think social media is worth it versus how is it worth it. So make sure you are understanding the difference between a complaint and an objection. So what I usually say to business owners if they give me a complaint such as, I don't think social media is worth it, I usually will give them a question to answer me back with to engage them in the conversation, because 9 times out of 10 I would say complaints are used by business owners who want to disengage from a conversation because they understand that if there is not something you guys can agree on, it's the easiest way for them to get out of the conversation. So if they say, I don't think social media is a good use for my business, I say, oh, I understand. Have you ever used social media before? That way I'm not only putting the pressure on them to give me some type of credibility to back up that opinion, but I'm also genuinely curious to see what their background is. If they've had a bad experience, then potentially they're just misrepresenting their objection based upon personal experience, a bias. So for example, if a business owner says he doesn't like social media and then you ask him that question, has he ever worked with it before? And he says, yes, I have, and I had a bad experience. That's where you should overcome that objection. That is a true objection where they've had a bad experience and they don't want to deal with it anymore. So this is what I normally say to business owners who've had bad experiences with social media. Doctor, I understand that you've had a bad experience with social media, and I'm sure that patients would say that they've had bad experiences with doctor. But that's not saying that you're a bad doctor, and that's not to say that every doctor out there is bad. Same thing with me. I just want to have you be open-minded to what I'm about to introduce to you, because I'm assuring you that what I'm about to tell you is way different from what you've experienced before. For example, how did your social media negatively impact your business prior? It puts them on a defensive, and that's exactly my point. I want them to understand that I'm going to take their objection very seriously. And if they want to dissolve that seriousness, then it puts me back into authority of the conversation, and I can continue on with my qualification process. Another objection that is fairly common with business owners is, I don't have time to do this. Now that might come across as a complaint, but that's a genuine objection that you have to be able to identify. This is what I'm saying. You really should understand what's a complaint, which is normally 9 times out of 10 opinion, and objections, which are potentially opinions, but they're backed by some type of certainty that the business owner has that you need to overcome. So I don't have time to do social media. I respond with, great. I'm so glad I came to you today, because part of the services that I offer is relinquishing you of that burden. Part of what my agency does is we do all the management. We do all of the procurement, which is essentially I create the ad, I run the ad, I reevaluate the ad, and then I do it all over again. I do all the research for your target markets. I make sure that I communicate with you what I think those are. And that way, if you have any type of insight, you can help me with that. I don't want to make sure, I don't want the business owner to think that they're totally excluded from what I have to do for them, because without their insight, I won't be able to truthfully identify what they're going for in the marketplace. I hope that makes sense. So a big objection to overcome is, I don't have time, and the best answer to address that is, that's great. That's part of the reason why we're doing this for you, because we understand that time is a huge concern for you. A third thing, I don't have the money for this. That's an objection. Although it sounds like it's a complaint, it is a true objection because chances are they feel that they don't have enough funds for whatever it is that you're offering. Two things that I want to tell you about this. One, this is why qualifying a client is very, very important. Sometimes they genuinely don't have enough money to afford your services, and it's better to cut the time that you spend with them, because what's the point in pitching somebody who, even if they can afford you for a month, won't be able to see and reap the benefits of your service because what we're doing is more long-term for them. How are they supposed to get the value from you? And that's the original purpose for why we're doing this, is to provide value to them. So if they don't have money, make sure that they're qualified. But if they are a qualified client and they use that, make sure to identify the reason why they feel they can't afford it. What I would usually ask to a business owner is, I understand that you feel you can't afford this. Let me ask you a quick question. How much is a new patient worth to you? It's kind of like spin selling. So you redirect a question that is associated with their question, but not necessarily answering it. So 9 times out of 10, I will talk to a business owner and say, I understand that you think this is expensive for you. Let me ask you a quick question. How much is a patient worth to you? How much is a customer worth to you? They'll answer with, $100, $1,000. With that said, I would say, what if I could offer you a fraction of that price for our service? Now, if it's too soon for you to be addressing price, don't say that. But if you're at that point where you're trying to close the client after he's been qualified and you're just trying to get over a price burden, it's absolutely appropriate for you to ask for them a price-minded question, such as, what if I were to offer you a fraction of what a new patient generates for you in cost? Would that be acceptable to you? If not, answer that objection. If it's a complaint, like I said, don't address it. So I hope that helps. I want to make sure that this is something that you're studying. Sales is extremely important in business. It's actually the lifeblood, in my opinion, of how businesses thrive. Grant Cardone is a great, great mentor of mine, and I think if you studied him too, you'd get a deeper understanding of what I'm talking about. Also, look up Gary Vee. He's very, very keen on understanding the execution behind sales, why it's maybe a little bit better to go door to door versus calling. There's many different ways on how to acquire clients, but it's the best form, in my opinion, to go door to door, as you get the face interaction, which builds trust. And trust is the main essence of sales. In order for someone to pay for your services, they need to trust you. And in order for them to want to trust you, they need to actually associate a voice at minimum, if not a face, to your brand and your services. Because we're humans. We need to have that connection with people. We can't just connect with, something that's automated, or, you know what I'm saying. So let me know what you guys think. In the comments below, let me know what you thought were the 2 main things that you learned from this and how you're going to apply it to your business tomorrow. Make sure that you're executing on this video, because if you don't, it's going to become less and less ingrained into how your daily performance is. So make sure you're executing, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.